Hello, welcome to Dunk and Egg Bricks, and to a video taking a quick look at some of the Formula One Speed Champion sets that were released at the beginning of this month. That's March of 2025. So before you, I have some of those sets. In fact, I have 5 of them from left to right. I have the Mercedes, the McLaren, the Aston Martin, the Ferrari, and the Red Bull Racing sets, but I also have some of the slightly older versions of those cars or similar cars from previous years. So I have the older version of the Mercedes on the left, and the McLaren on the left of the pair there, and the Aston Martin on the pair there. The Red Bull and the Ferrari are brand new and don't have equivalents, or at least not recent equivalents. I thought I'd just do a quick video on this as someone who's a complete novice to Formula One, other than I know that they are fast cars that go round tracks really quickly. I've never really watched Formula One before, but there's just something about these cars and the kind of collection of all of them in the various different liveries that I really wanted to take a look at. So I went ahead and I got 5 of the possible 10, and I think I will stop there because otherwise I'm going to have absolutely no room for anything else. As it is, I'm very pressed for space. But yeah, I thought the 5 of these would be a nice selection. So I've gone for the kind of top cars in the Constructors' Championship. So that is the Red Bull, Ferrari, Aston Martin, McLaren and Mercedes, although not in that order. I don't actually remember the complete order, but I thought that would be a nice selection of cars, and 5 was a decent number. Now, if you've not seen any of these new sets before, then they all follow fairly similar lines. Here is the Mercedes, which makes sense because these are all representing cars that have to stick to a formula, hence the name. But what actually surprised me the most about these sets, and I can't really vouch for the other 5, although maybe I'll take a look through the instructions, is just how different the builds are for all of these cars. Now, they share some common pieces, some of which are new. So we've got these slightly wider tyres at the back, which are a bit more accurate. You've got these kind of suspension and I don't know what you call them, mudguard kind of pieces at the front, which are really, really nice. It's a brand new mould that every single car has. They all come with a similar halo, which is the protective piece that stops, basically if the car flips, it stops it from landing on the driver's head. And they all share this similar rear spoiler design. But apart from that, they really are all very different. And I'm very impressed with how they've managed to come up with so many creative designs. There's some really interesting part usage. So you might be able to see on the bottom, we've got things like neck brackets using 1x1 round tiles with bars. That inkwell piece, as some people call them, using then a neck bracket to hold these wedge plates upside down. And in fact, I think the Aston Martin does a similar sort of thing. Different sized wedge plates and actually 2 neck brackets to hold those in there. I've not taken the time to look and see if these were all designed by a single person. I'm kind of assuming they were designed by a team, obviously working to similar specifications, but each with their own freedom to design things. And there's some really creative part usage in here, really nice. A couple of the cars use the Darksaber blade from Star Wars for that kind of fin along the back there, and some of them don't. Some of them use a ski piece, which is a technique that's been used before. It's very creative, and as a result, they're a lot of fun to put together. There are some bits, as I said, which are the same through all the cars, but to be honest, I think the rest of it really balances it out and makes it, a lot of fun to put them together. I don't know if I'd want to put any more together right now. I've put these 5 sets together. I managed to find a couple of them. Actually, no, I didn't find them early this time. My brother managed to get them early, but I didn't. And I, I've built them all within the space of a week or so. So if I was going to get any more, which I'm not, I promise, then I would probably want to wait to get some of them. One of the main reasons I would say for that is not just the repetitiveness of some of the build, it's also the stickers. You can see that there are a lot of stickers on these cars, as is kind of to be expected because these cars in real life have got sponsors all over the place and different details that aren't necessarily attainable through the use of pieces. Although that, you could leave the stickers off these, and I think the shaping would still be pretty decent, but they wouldn't look right. I have to say, though, I am very impressed with some of the printing that is included. So, for instance, this Red Bull car, which is the first one that I built, these wedge slopes on the back are printed, and they are, mirrored, one on that side, one on the other. And on all of the cars, this slope on the front is printed, and especially this one. This is actually a yellow piece, and it's been printed in blue right up to the edges. You wouldn't even know that that was yellow. It's really, really impressive. And on most of the cars, this 1x1 slope, or some of them have got a tile instead, is printed, apart from the McLaren. Don't know why. That's a sticker. Bizarre. But there we are. Yeah, and a lot of them, for instance, these pieces here that some of them feature are printed. But then you've also got this as a sticker, whereas the same piece on the Red Bull car was a print. So I don't know what the rhyme or reason is. Each one will have its own parts budget in order to have, you know, the correct number of prints. I have to say though, what's really nice is that they all come with printed wheel inserts, and some of them, in fact, I think all of them, come with printed tyres. I'm just looking at them now. Yeah, they all come with printed tyres, obviously in the 2 different sizes, which is really, really nice. Now, this is a very basic overview. Like I said, I know very little about Formula One, although maybe I'll get into it. Damn you, Lego, for getting me into something else. But yeah, it's just interesting to see these cars overall, and it's also interesting from just a Lego enthusiast point of view to see the progress from where they've come. Now, I believe that this, excuse the dust, isn't actually meant to be a Formula One car. You'll have to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I have a feeling it's something slightly different, but I've kept it in this review because I've got the newer version of the Mercedes, and I thought it was, you know, a good point of reference. But you see that it really benefits, if I bring the other Mercedes car in, really benefits from that new suspension piece there, wishbones, whatever you want to call them. They just look brilliant. They're perfect. And I think as well that they're generic enough that I can see someone using them in a completely different context, and I think that would still look really, really good. You know, I only got to think of things like Technic gear racks that have been used in sets like the Ninjago City sets, and you see them used as kind of supporting columns with all sorts of random details on them. And I think that that's the kind of thing I can see people using. So I'll be interested to see when they come in an official set, or when a fan finds something creative to do with them. And you can see on here it's just using those standard Technic connectors, and they've tried to imitate the suspension there using those little T-shaped pneumatic pieces, and there's a similar technique on the other 2 older ones using bucket handles, but the overall effect is just not quite right. The tires as well, these are using, or this one in particular uses kind of older style Speed Champions tires, which are all the same size and actually have these printed wheel inserts rather than printing on the tires. Also, I think they just don't look right because they've got treads like that, and I think even the wet weather tyres, which is what I think these are meant to represent, don't have that much tread. So yeah, it's interesting. The halo is actually the only part on all of these cars which is basically identical. It's a piece of flex tube in a couple of these bar holders with the clipped on so it can pivot up and down. The only difference being that on the newer ones, the kind of vertical bit at the front is connected to the halo rather than being connected to the car. While we're focusing up here in detail, you can see the driver. Now, this driver, there have been some changes. So this is how a driver looked in the previous car. It's kind of meant to represent the official driver, but also kind of isn't, I believe. It's not got a visible, number or anything like that on it, and the detailing is really nice, I have to say. But the new drivers, they're all generic, so they're all meant to represent just drivers for the company, or for the team I should say, not specific people. But they've come up with this new helmet. Now, I haven't looked to see how accurate this is to have a kind of trans red visor. They've all got different coloured visors and different coloured plastic, but I really like this piece, and it comes printed with the logo of the team on it, and as you can see, it is just a completely generic head underneath, and there is less printing. But then, we're not buying these cars for the minifigures, or at least I'm not. I'm buying them for the car builds, and I tend to display them with my minifigures inside the cars to save space. So at the end of the day, you're not going to really see that. You're going to see the helmet, and that's about it. So yeah, that's a change in the way that these drivers are represented, and I think the proportions are better. Just looking at the kind of the length of these cars as well, they've got longer. You can see with the back wheels lined up that it's a good, I'd say it's only a stud longer at the wheelbase, but it ends up being a couple of studs longer in total length, and this just looks better. It's Lego at the end of the day, so it's never going to be 100% accurate, and if you're looking for 100% accuracy, then buy a model kit, don't buy a Lego set. But if you're looking for an interesting representation, then I think this is the way to go. Here's another comparison, the two Aston Martin cars. The fronts are really very, very similar. They've changed from using these actually relatively new slope pieces, which are kind of flat slopes, to using curved slopes, which I do think looks better. The front is just so much nicer. These are less different. So this and the older McLaren are pretty much the identical build. Some slight variations around the back in particular, but for all intents and purposes they're the same build, whereas these new cars really aren't. And yeah, it's just interesting to see again those bucket handles being used as suspension. This part, which a lot of people have complained about, where it just pops off like that, it's not particularly brilliant. This one has just come up with a completely different technique using almost identical parts, but flipped round, and yeah, the whole build is just so clever. Yeah, I'm really happy with these. I will be probably replacing these older designs with the newer variants of them, and then adding in the Ferrari and the Red Bull. I do have to point out on the Ferrari, there's a very interesting technique here, where this is actually loose. It's clamped in by these what are actually kind of city style door pieces. Just pop off that piece on the top. So if I open these doors underneath, this entire bit can just slide out. Yeah, bizarre, but it works. You know, you put it in, seat it, close the doors around it, and it's not going anywhere. In fact, it's barely rattling around. Just, yeah, another really good example of really creative building techniques. And, you know, the end result, I think, looks fantastic. I have no idea if this is going to be something that LEGO is going to continue doing in the future. I mean, I guess there's only so many times you can release what are essentially very similar models. They probably won't want to release all 10 of them every year, but you never know. It's a big cross-promotional co-branding type thing going on, so we'll have to wait and see what happens next year, and whether or not this Formula 1 license deal across loads of different things. We've got City, we've got Speed Champions, we've got Duplo, we've got all sorts going on. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, hopefully for F1 fans, this is great. And you know, it's that thing that LEGO's been doing a lot of recently, where they'll try and bring people who aren't fans of LEGO into the hobby by using something that's also popular, like F1. But also for someone like me, who's not really watched F1 in the past, maybe it'll actually interest me in watching some F1 in the future. So there we go. Hope you've enjoyed my rambling thoughts on the F1 Speed Champions sets. Let me know if you've got any of these, or if you're looking to try and get a full set, or even a full grid. As my brother pointed out, it would cost you about £500 in the UK to get a full grid. That's 2 of each car, 20 cars in total. But I'm sure people have already done it. And if you have done, let me know, because it'd be really cool to see that. So thank you for watching. Leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel for future videos, give it a like, and we'll see you again soon.